So I've been wondering if there's any practical limit to my broccoli because after cutting the main heads, I kept getting side shoots and into the winter here. And what I'm seeing back here, we had deep freeze and snow a couple weeks ago here in Portland, and now what I'm seeing here is damage to the broccoli heads. And so it looks like that may be the limit, in the sense of, as I look at it, it's like, well, these are some pretty older plants. I could cut the damaged heads and probably new heads would come, but I'm thinking that I lost this round of side shooting from these broccolis, and now to wait for more side shooting to come, I might be worthwhile. I might go ahead and do that, because that might be my first crop of the spring, because it would take we won't have enough heat for new broccoli plants to come up as quickly. But I'm thinking these plants are on their last legs. I don't know if the future side shoots will be as practical to use as what I've been having here. So yeah, I'm still exploring, how long can I actually keep these broccoli plants going and get a viable crop from them. Well, I have a bad feeling that I've lost a bunch of my tulips. I'm finding these holes everywhere, and they're kind of neatly spaced out, and some of them look like they're like perfectly drilled. And yeah, it looks suspiciously like exactly where I planted a bunch of tulips, and I don't remember this happening in prior years. I think that yeah, I've heard that squirrels and mice and various vermin can kind of sniff them out, and groundhogs, I guess, I don't know what all does this, can sniff out the bulbs and find them and get to them. And yeah, I'm gonna be pretty sad. I made both a financial and time investment in getting these tulips in here, and so it's going to be pretty sad if I lost a lot of them due to that. I guess we'll find out as it becomes spring. Fava beans, that's what I'm up to here. I've got some fava beans that I've been planting back here, and yeah, I did this last year. Now it's kind of like they call it the joking spring here in Portland, Oregon, because the temperatures are higher, but we're still really very much in the season of winter. And I would not otherwise advise kind of planting out plants this time of year from which are growing from seed in most cases. But fava beans themselves, these never really needed technically to be planted in cell trays. I did this because I was running late. I did the same thing last year. You can plant these fava bean seeds in the late fall, and they would be growing now. Fava beans grow in the winter time and then really finish themselves up in the early spring. So we could have done it that way. We didn't do it that way. And so yeah, I'm just getting them out here. So I don't think it's going to hurt them to be out here, even if it returns to cold, which I would expect that it might. So that's where I'm at with it, and yeah, I'll keep on doing it and keep you updated on what happens with these fava bean transplants that I am putting in the ground now in January. Well, behind me here, I've got these 14 tubs with yellow tops on them. I call them my yellow bins, and that's what I put the potting soil in every season before starting. So we did our annual delivery of potting soil. We get potting soil delivered from Grimm's Fuel, a potting mix, because at the volume that I use it, if I were to buy it by the bag, and if you go to garden stores, depending on what you get, it could be anywhere from $10 to $15 a bag, and as you get farther into the season, the price goes up, of course. And so that would be yeah, that'd be a lot more money than what we spend by buying it in volume. So I buy like 3 yards of it, have it dumped off in our dumping area here at PDX Garden Home, and then we put it in these tubs here. So what do you all think of my my stake station back there, where I stack all my stakes? I've been, I get these things in my head, and then they bother me, right? Because it's like in the garden where it's off to the side, you can see it. I think it looks organized. I used to try to stack my stakes back behind the sheds, between the sheds and a hedge that I had, but and that worked for a while and kept them nice and neat in an area that wasn't that visible. But the problem is that I just have too many of them. I can't fit them all back there. So this is really convenient. It's nice and open, and it's underneath the trees in a way that doesn't get an enormous amount of rainfall. It's okay if they get wet because they're stakes for the garden, so they'll get wet during the garden season anyway. But they don't get like soaked because they're not They do get some cover from the rain. It's more relatively dry there, and yeah, it's just kind of convenient there. These are old. This is an old compost bin system that was on this side of the garden before I got here, and it's a cool system. I like it. Okay, I started trying to use it when I got here, but the reality, if you've seen my compost piles, I have way more compost that would ever fit in there, way more yard debris that would ever fit in there anyway. Yeah. I'm using it as my steak storage facility. I've tried to dream up ways that would look really cool and creative for storing steaks that but as I've mentioned in prior videos, sometimes you overthink these things, and that's what I think I'm doing. I think, yeah, love to hear if any of you think that it's kind of an eyesore there, or if you think it kind of works just fine sitting there and doesn't detract from the garden too much. I've loved having Brasilia verbena in the garden. I first planted it several years ago from seed, and I got the seed from Botanical Interest. And then I didn't have to plant the seed again the next year because it just reseeded itself. And I've loved how it's framed this back corner of the northeast garden bed between the bed and the street. This flower is also called purple top verbena. You can't see that now because the flower that's left here, or the stem that's left here, it's winter and it's grown old and died. It will grow 3 to 4 feet tall usually, and it likes some full sun to part shade, which is kind of what it gets here. More full sun over here than part shade. The North Carolina Extension Service, I found an article they had on it, and they said that they called the plants a see-through plant, filling in vertical space in a perennial border, but allowing plants behind it to be seen. And that describes exactly my experience with it, and one of the reasons I loved it was for that exact feature of it. Its technical name, I believe, is Verbena bonariensis, Bonariensis. So there you go. Something I need to plant from seed now to get ready for the spring season. Here's what I'm planting from seed this week: verbena, snapdragons, foxgloves, bunching onions, and radishes. It's a bit early for radishes, but it's an experiment due to the fall spring that we're having. Well, the weather today here is amazing. I'm literally just sitting outside enjoying the garden outside here in January. This is what we call the fall spring here in Portland, Oregon. So hope you all are out enjoying your gardens if you can. And yeah.